Hi guys, it's me again. It's Thursday, Theatre Talk with Wayne, and today we'll be talking about the Barretts of Wimpole Street, which Fisher Dramatic Society presented in 2016. I'm going to read you some of the stuff that the director actually wrote. Oddly enough, over the years, due to the love of the Victorian era, I have often been asked to direct the Barretts of Wimpole Street, but because of the large male cast, which are literally like hen's teeth to cast, I have always declined. Although billed as a comedy, it is anything but. Now, I can really relate to this because it's community theatre. There's not a lot of people out there who are willing to give up the time in their lives to actually commit to a 3-month rehearsal period and then put on a show, and to find someone who actually knows how to say their lines. Over the years, there have been so many shows that actually the societies weren't able to produce because they couldn't get the cast, and I could actually relate to that because when I did Four Chairs in 2015, it was. I held 2 auditions and I struggled to find the cast. And when I did have the cast, there was a lot of dropouts. But I will explain about that when I do an episode for Four Chairs. But let's go back to this. Granted, there are some amusing moments, but this historic autobiography illustrates the tragic, cathartic relationship of a patriotic father who rules his family with an iron fist and an invalid daughter wanting to adhere to her father's demands, yet determined to overcome her handicap in the eyes of the forbidden love. I'm very concerned that this was actually labeled a comedy because it wasn't labeled a comedy. There were actually some scenes that was really disturbing, to be honest with you, and to be labeled as a comedy is kind of weird. However, we approached again at the end of 2015 by Fisher Dramatic Society. I decided to read the script once more with the intention of perhaps being able to cut some of the male characters, and due to the duration of the play, perhaps some preferable dialogue. The director actually did cut out a lot of characters. Barretts of Wimpole Street is basically a father who had so many kids, and he treated them like they were. He only cared for one person, and that was Elizabeth Barrett. The rest could just fall off the face of the earth, and he didn't care. And his love for his oldest daughter was quite intense and quite disturbing. Hopefully, without digressing too much from the original script, I would like to present a streamlined version of the classic love story. Robert and Elizabeth have always been an ongoing fascination for me. Elizabeth's invalid status, being bedridden and unable to walk as a result of being thrown from a horse at the age of 15, her genius poetic writings resulting in her affiliation through correspondence to Robert Browning. Already an acclaimed writer and poet, and despite her being ruled by a stern, disapproving widowed father, Edward Moulton Barrett, she finds consolation and strength in Robert's encouragement to live and love. There are so many other interesting facets to their lives, but for those of you who have not been initiated, I feel I should rather refrain from divulging anything further, other than for you to laugh, cry, spurn, and mostly for you to endure this enlightened romance. So that's basically it. Sorry, there we go. Right, let's get to one of the stories. I think we should start right from the beginning. This could be a long video. I'm going to hold it here for a while, so I can have something in my hand. I should make tea. Digressing, sorry. I don't know what drew me towards this this play. I think I did some research. Mind you, this was in 2016, so this was in my final year of college, and I had a lot to prove. So at this audition, right, I had auditioned for who did I audition for? I auditioned for Octavius. I remember that, and then I auditioned for Robert Browning, which was the love interest to Elizabeth Barrett. And to be honest with you, I was miles too old for Octavius, and they were discussing who to play Robert Browning. Sometimes directors do cast a show at an audition, but I think the director at the time wanted to have uh, more options out there, and they were just throwing names into the pot and what have you. And I was like, I've been doing shows for so many years, and I've gone to go and be educated in the field, and yet I wasn't strong enough to play the role. But at the end, yes, so I was cast as Robert Browning. So I put a lot of pressure onto myself because this was the first time I was actually playing a character that actually lived, and I got this mindset thinking that someone out there knows Robert Browning and is going to say something about my performance. The likelihood of that person actually being in the theatre was very unlikely, but it was in my head, and I tackled this role. I did everything that I normally do when it comes to, well, I've used the skills from college to create the character, and the character was very stoic, very much in love with love itself. And yeah, so the person who I was acting opposite was Tash Vaturin. You might have seen some of the shows at the Now Courtyard Theatre. She was with me in Terror Your Verdict. She was in Four Chairs. She's done very well for herself. Yeah, so let's go from that. We knew each other because we did Four Chairs together, and we really worked well. But I was just struggling. I was just struggling to connect, and at that time I hadn't come out as gay, so that I had that in the back of my head. And when this was so cool. She invited me over. When was I? Oh, yeah, I was still in college. She invited me over to her place to actually rehearse our scenes because Elizabeth Barrett was the only character that my character had scenes with. And I had a lot of dialogue, so I never had interactions with any of the other characters in the play. And so I arrived there and we just chatted. We chatted the whole afternoon. We didn't go through our lines whatsoever. But that rehearsal, that night, we went from her house to rehearsal. There was such an improvement in our connectivity between ourselves as well as the character. So I was very happy with what we did, and the characters just worked. And I always and will always classify Tash as my theatre wife. That's how strong the connection was. I was in love with her. During the rehearsal period, and this was a big role. This was a big ass role. And at that time, I had my college production, and I had my monologues for college, which was going towards my final exam at the end of the year. But this was in July. Yeah. What did we do in July? Okay, never mind. So I had a few characters that was stuck in my head because in the college production, I was playing 7 characters because it was just snippets. I will explain in a different video. And so I had like 7 characters in my head, plus the other 3 for my monologues at the end of the year, as well as Robert. And I was, I don't know what happened. Okay, I think this is what happened. Wednesday, I went to sleep around about 11 o'clock. I only woke up at 7 on Thursday night. And I think I missed rehearsal that day. And then I stayed awake until 11. And then the next day I never went to college. And I woke up at 3 in the afternoon. And then I went to rehearsal on Saturday, and I couldn't function as a person. I knew the words, it just wouldn't come out. It was in my head, I could see it, but it just wasn't going down to my mouth to come out. And my director said to me, Wayne, you know these lines, you know this character. It just feels like you're burning yourselves on both ends. And I was. I mean, I was tackling the biggest role of my career at that time. And I had a lot to prove, because I wasn't really how do I put it? It's like the audiences and the people that's in the community weren't like, oh wow, Wayne's in the show, this is going to be the best show ever. I was never the draw card. I was never someone to be not feared, but to, okay, I need to take my step back because this guy is absolutely brilliant. Because I have done a few shows with people who I thought were absolutely brilliant, and it was very, very intimidating. And not getting the sort of respect that I have with these people has always affected my self-esteem. And yeah, so it was quite intense. But once I had a break, because I think what happened was my college production was postponed. Yes, it was postponed, and I was able to do this because what I was doing was I was doing Barretts or Wimpole Street, and then for the 2-week or 3-week run, it was a 2-week run, and then it was supposed to have ended earlier, and then I was supposed to have my college production, and that was postponed. It was supposed to have been before Barretts or Wimpole Street, but then it was after. Yes, that makes sense to me. I told you this is going to be a long video. So I can't really remember any dramatic stuff happening. The most exciting part of this play is that we actually had a live dog on stage. Our stage manager at the time and production secretary actually went out and adopted a Cocker Spaniel for this for this show. Yes, they have kept the dog. The character's name was Flush, and the dog's real name is Oliver. Not too sure why that name. And that was 2016. So Oliver's still around. He's still with the stage manager to this day, so not to worry. But it was quite intense to have a dog backstage, to be honest. And also very placid. Now with Tash was on stage 95% of the time. And what was so funny is that she literally wore the same outfit, but come the time when she actually had to leave the stage, she had to get undressed and dressed again to go onto stage for like a 2-second scene. And it was myself and the 2 ladies who played her sisters on stage, waiting for her to come off, get her undressed to the nitty-gritties. Something about theatres is that there is no shame. You have to do what needs to be done in order to make the show go on. So we would undress her and dress her and get her on the stage. That was fun. I actually can't remember if it was the Old Folks Night. What the Master Theatre does is that we invite U3A, which is a universe of the third age, something to do with university. Wow, what? And we invite members from the retirement villages around the area to come and watch our final dress rehearsal. And I think that was our final dress rehearsal because I go on stage. I think this was my last scene. I go on stage and I'm convincing Elizabeth that we are going to skip the country and we are going to take a train. And I'm supposed to take my train schedule out and take the time, but I forgot to put it in my pocket. So, so luckily enough, I did this while I was saying my lines. And I could see my stage manager on the left of me. And I just went like that. And I was talking and I had... so it was something like this, right? And it was like, there we go. There we go. Train schedule. Let's catch a train. Choo, choo, choo. Oh, gosh. Gosh, the one thing that irritated me was there was these three gentlemen on stage. I mean, in this production, they were never on stage at the same time, and me only have scenes with Elizabeth. It was kind of hard to focus backstage because all these guys did was talk, which is kind of hilarious because I'm very well known backstage to be told to shut up because I talk a lot. And my job was to always fix the cravat of the one gentleman, and every time he left the stage, without fail, he would say, "This is the last time I'm acting on stage. I've had enough with this," and blah, blah, blah. So if we had 9 shows and a week of run-throughs, can you imagine what it was like backstage, hearing the same thing all the fucking time? As you can see, I have moved on. And then we had the other gentleman who repeated his stories. And I'm like, I was in the conversation with you. Don't tell me the story again, for the love of God. And then the other gentleman was complaining about the other 2. So it was like in, out of the dressing room, one repeating a story, one complaining about either of the guys, and the other telling me it's the last time he's going to be on bloody well stage. Oh my God! Yeah. I would think that the Barretts of Wimpole Street would be my defining moment in my career, in a sense that in all the shows that I did leading up, I've always had mixed reviews. Even when I had reviews on some of the shows, I was always ridiculed. And when the reviews came out for this show, I was so happy. Like, for example, one said that they didn't recognize that it was me on stage. The other one said that that I really epitomized the character of Robert Browning. And I did win Best Actor for the Society Awards. Unfortunately, I was not nominated for a Carter, which I really was upset about it. It's not the fact of winning the award, it's the fact of being recognized. They see you on stage and they see what you have done. We are nominating you for whatever. I don't care about winning. I'm not even... I really don't care about winning. I'm just caring that, boom, we see you, we believe that you're a great actor, but not getting the recognition on that level. It's very disconcerting. And to this day, which is now 2020, in the 12 years, I've never been nominated for a Carter. If you want to know what a Carter Award is, I will do a video for that. But all in all, it's just like our versions of the Oscars. Everyone goes to a theatre and they do their award ceremony like you would like you would normally do, but the only thing that is different that there is no speeches after winning an award for the love of Frank. Could you just imagine? And yeah, so I'm going to end this video. It will be a great pity if I have forgotten any of the other stories. But yeah, so catch me next week when I do another episode.